Thanks so much for reaching out.
Yeah, no, my pleasure.
I have so many questions for you, and it was such good timing because I'm interested in learning more about fasting, and my friends are interested in learning more about like keto and diet changes. So when I got your email, I was like, yes, I have some questions and I want to know your answers. So it was
Great.
good timing. So maybe just starting off with telling us your story, a little bit about you. How did you get into this world of health and fitness and just feeling your personal connection there?
Well, my story was I've always been into health and wellness, and I would just do it personally, just a lot for myself, just getting in the gym, working out, and then eating pretty clean. I just turned 40, so just to backtrack, I used to just be in the commercial lending world, like corporate America, and just was in that for like 5, 7 years. Wasn't really for me, and started getting into health coaching and then learning about different ways that can affect people in a positive manner through health and wellness. And so training out of a small studio, and then how it brought me into like fasting, intermittent fasting, which is what I've been doing more so and helping people with, is actually a client of mine introduced me to it. So it wasn't necessarily something that I actually like found for myself, but she was so she was like pre-diabetic, and she tried a bunch of things, and this was probably like 6 years ago. And now fasting has become a little more mainstream. You hear it more. And
Like a
so
fad.
yeah, like it never used to be really be in the media, and it still really isn't,
Hmm.
because no one makes money when you fast, right? So you're not going to hear it. You're not going to hear like a lot of mainstream publications talk about it. But
Hmm.
there's been some really good books. One book that got me into it was Dr. Jason Fung had a book about fasting, and that sort of intrigued me. And also the fact that my client got really good results. She was pre-diabetic, and she like tried everything, and she got really into fasting and had great results. I was like, oh, I want to learn more about this. And
Hmm.
so yeah, I just started learning about it for myself. And then I was like, well, I got to do it myself if I'm going to have other people do it. And just started doing it. I was fairly healthy going into it, but as you get older, it's a little more difficult to stay the way you want to stay. To whether feel, mentally and physically, sometimes you can get thrown off a little bit as you get older. Things change and your body changes. And this was just the way for me to change it up, but also just step it up a little bit. Because as you know, if you eat the way you eat in your 20s, you can't really eat that way when you get older. So
My partner's 40 as well, and he says the same thing. He's like, everything is so different now, like what I
mhm.
eat and what I do, and again, like the mental health and everything. So I love that you brought that up about how different it is. Like, and you kind of know it's coming because you hear other people talking about it, but then you're like, oh, well, I've just been doing this for so long. This is just me, until it's like, wait, what is this like new way I need to learn about what I do now?
Yeah, I agree. And even like physically, I mean, like you're like, oh, I'll never have aches and pains, and then you're like, oh, well, okay, I'm 40 now. I'm experiencing aches and I mean, it doesn't happen in one day, right? But it like gradually
Hmm.
gets to that point, and I think it just shows you how important recovery is as you get older. You can still perform at a high level, whatever it is, but like just you need more time to recover. That's for sure.
Hmm. We're big CBD fans, so we're like, take CBD if like anything hurts, and we're like, oh, we're good now. I can go cut the trees down and pull the logs. Like,
That's great. I would love to learn more about that, because I've done a little bit with CBD, but not as much as I probably could, for recovery.
So tell me more too about how you went from like the 9 to 5 lifestyle to this lifestyle. What was your transition like to really do what you want to do?
So it started out that I just started doing one-on-one training and small groups, and just built that up until I could sort of leave corporate America. And so once I I hooked up with a small studio, buddy of my own, and I started working with him, and so built that clientele up, and then left corporate America and started just making that my full-time, if you want to say, job. And then also getting into, as I was training people, obviously with a lot of, different weights and things like that, but also I realized how important nutrition was, and can't really outwork a bad diet. So I wanted to implement that into my practice as well, and then sort of all led together into intermittent fasting as well. So
So what is intermittent fasting? What defines that fasting compared to like maybe another style of fasting? Because I feel like there's so many different kinds. If you can just describe what that actually is for maybe one that doesn't know, or where it gets so confusing with so many different words.
I know, I guess it can be confusing because there's different ways to do fasting, but I would just say intermittent fasting is pretty much just confining your eating period to a certain period of time.
Great way of saying it. I like that. Well, everyone's like, it's this time to this time, and you only do this, you don't do that. But like you saying it like that, yes, very simple. I like that.
Yeah, I'm all about keeping it simple. So yeah, just restricting, or I don't even know if restricting is a good word, but like just confining your eating period to certain time periods. And there's really no wrong or right time period per se. I mean, you'll have, now there's a lot of talk and research like on circadian rhythm and when is the right time to eat and the best time for yourself, for metabolism, or for your blood sugar maintenance. So you can get into it and dive really deep, but I think it depends on the individual and like what their schedule's like and how it fits into their life. Because really, it's really about being consistent and making a lifestyle change. And so you want to find those times that really fit into your schedule.
What does your kind of day look like, eating wise or fitness wise? And obviously that can change if like the weather's different, if you're on vacation, but just kind of overall, what does a regular day look like for you?
Yeah, and like you said, it has changed over time. And actually it changed over the last like 4 months with all, with COVID and everything that's been going on. I changed my routine. I'm sure a lot of people had changed their routines quite a bit, from, people who, working from home and things like that. But for me in general, like, I fast. So let's just say, typically in the morning, I'll wake up, and I've been trying to really hammer down my morning ritual and routine. I think that's so important. I'm sure you do too. For me, the most productive time of the day is the morning. So, I'll get up fairly early. Let's just say on average around 6 o'clock. Sometimes earlier, sometimes a bit later, and then I'll make it a point to read. So I'll read, I'll do some type of either meditation or yoga in the morning to start the day. And I've actually been learning piano, so I've put that in there. Yeah. So that's been fun. And so I'll do those just to start the day. Usually take my dog for a walk too. I always recommend that, like getting up and walking is such a great way to start the day, whether you have a dog or not.
Yes. Just like the air on you is like, oh, okay, everything's like taken out of me, the energy. I'm like renewed, I'm alive. Yeah, it just feels really good.
Yeah, get out, get some sun, and wake up your body like a natural way. I mean, rather than getting up and looking at your phone, right? So that's important. So I really try to take advantage of the mornings, and then I'll try to do productive work in the morning, whether it's writing something for my blog, or maybe I'm doing a course or an ebook or something, and get that done in the morning. And then I've been transitioning to like midday workouts. I really like those.
Okay.
Yeah. And I've been doing them mainly in a fasted state. So I'll be fasting in the morning and usually have, mineral water or something.
So I see recently, like some people I know on mainly like on Facebook and just social media, people are always asking about keto. Like, yes, do it. No, don't do it. It's awful. What is your thoughts, experiences, recommendation that you would
Hmm.
say to do with keto?
Yeah, so I would say it depends on the individual and like what they're looking to do. I think that keto can play a definite role for a lot of different individuals. For example, like I just equate keto to a fairly low carb, um, I wouldn't even want to call it diet, but way of eating. Like I don't track my macros, I don't track my carbs, but I would say I eat in a fairly low carb state most of the time. I just found for me that for a while I was having, I would break my fast maybe midday, and I just felt like it was weighing me down a little bit, and I would have something what you would perceive as maybe on the healthier side, like maybe like a nice salad with some protein or something. But so I've sort of switched that, and just taken a lot of the carbs away during the day because they seem to maybe weigh me down a bit. So
Mm-hmm.
I would say keto is great. I mean, people take advantage of keto in the sense that they go, really high fat, but they're eating things that are just like almost like overboard, like like not that, like sticks of butter and things like that. Like
Yes.
right, like I think you can take it to the extreme. I don't think you need to do that as far as like eating, but I think having a higher fat and then like a moderate protein is a good way to go, depending on the individual. And because it'll create satiety and give you prolonged energy. If you're having a lot of times, if you're having carbs, it'll most likely give you a bit of a spike in blood sugar and cause a bit of a crash. So I think you want to feel out how you want to enter carbs into your diet. I don't I
Mm-hmm.
don't completely, I know a lot of people do really well on like sweet potatoes and things like that. Um, but I think it just depends. And I think if you eat carbs at the right time too, sometimes I'll have carbs maybe towards the end of the day because they tend to sort of maybe take my energy levels down a little bit sometimes. So I won't have them per se in the middle of the day. I might have them, I might backload at the end of the day. But I think it's about feeling it out, and also, and I was mentioning before, it's like when you're working out too. If you have a hard workout and then you want to sort of load up on carbs, that's not a bad, your body's more sensitive to it, and it'll use it for energy. So
Mm-hmm. Me and my partner were vegan for a year, and
mhm.
that's what I found too. I'm like, when we were in Jamaica, of course, we had like the jerk chicken once, like, and people were like, "Oh my God, but you're vegan." I'm like, "Yeah, but I think there's room to like feel it out and be intuitive about it. It doesn't have to be like this is the only thing that I eat. This is the way it is." Like, so I like how you
Right.
said that with keto, like feel it out, like use your intuition, like yes, have some guidelines, but if when it becomes too many rules, or if you are not feeling good but you're still trying to make it work and it's not, like that's when it gets dangerous or confusing, and then it doesn't feel good anymore to even do it.
Yeah, and I'll just say on your point, as far as like I was a pescatarian for a while, and I just probably over the last like 4 or 5 months, I got back into eating meat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and like not commercial, like run of the mill meat. Like I
Yeah.
found like good sustainable like grass fed, grass finished meat where the animals were raised humanely, and obviously without any antibiotics, things like that. So I found a few, and got it and started just implementing it back into my diet. And I will say I found a difference in just the way I look and feel. And so yeah, like you mentioned, I think now everyone like wants to take sides, or there's these extremes on one way
Uh-huh.
or the other. I don't believe in that unless you have a certain condition where you have to eat a certain way. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I feel like people almost like take it on as like a label or as part of their identity, or I'm a part of
Right.
this group now. And it's like, we could just have fun with our food and like
Right.
make it a social thing and look forward to doing what feels right for us. We also aren't vegan anymore, but there's still some things that like I still eat that are vegan, or certain habits or recipes, things that I really love that we still do. But we're
Right.
back to like, my dad's a hunter, so we'll eat deer meat sometimes and things like that. And it just feels more natural. So it's interesting to try different things and then see what actually does work for you, and go with the signs of your gut and your body and your overall energy.
Yeah, no doubt. And just going back to your question about keto, like I think
Hmm.
if someone's thinking about getting into intermittent fasting, I think first they should think about cleaning up what they're eating.
Hmm.
And you know, I'm not saying you have to go like full bore keto per se, but I think it helps if you start eating healthier things like more proteins and more fats, healthy fats. Um, because if you do start fasting, those will give you less of an insulin boost, and you know, so you'll be, if you're eating keto, you're used to, you start get used to being where your insulin levels don't spike as much, and you're in sort of this low insulin state, which is sort of mimics fasting, right? So it's a good way to sort of
Hmm.
ease you into that. Is first sort of clean up what you're eating, and then you can start doing some fasting and just prolonging your
What
fasting
have
window, I should say. Yeah. Okay.
what have you noticed like that works best for you eating wise besides the fasting? And I know you said you do eat like some meat, but do you find like it's really the greens that work best for you, or like more veggies and fruits? Just curious.
Yeah, like so, like I would say that midday, I try to keep it pretty light. You know, so I'll break my fast anywhere, let's just say between 12 and 3. You know, some days I'll fast longer. You know, I've been doing it for a while, so there's days where I'll just go longer. There's days where I'll say, you know, my body just feels like it wants, you know, like, so I think that's another big thing, not to get off track, but like when you start doing the
Hmm.
fasting, you sort of become more aware of like your hunger hormones, and like um yeah, you're just more in control, I'd say, and just more aware of like how you feel, and like, because I think in the past, before I got into fasting, is if I had any inkling of hunger, I would like grab some type of bar, right?
Hmm.
Thinking I needed to have something, but you realize that, you know, hunger, you know, your hunger hormones and your hunger waves, you know, they come and go, and they're sort of you know, they're sort of based on certain times. Um, but yeah, anyway, so for me, I'll go more like I'll go lighter during the midday, maybe eggs, eggs, maybe some. I don't do a ton of dairy, but you know, maybe some type of, you know, high quality dairy, and I'll do that midday. And then, you know, I used to have a big green salad. I don't do that as much anymore. I do have plants from time to time, but I've cut them out a little bit. You know,
Hmm.
some people, they don't necessarily disagree with me, but I just, you know, I've gotten a little bit more into, the more I've learned about, not to say that plants can't be good, but some plants can actually be toxic for some people,
Hmm.
and with their guts and things like that. Um, so that would be what I would break my fast with. And then typically in the evening, I'll do a fish or some type of meat. And 95% of the time, it's either it's wild or grass, or, you know, wild fish or grass fed meat.
And who are you finding right now as like your main clientele?
Yeah. So I've been doing a lot with helping people get into intermittent fasting. So most of my clientele are similar to probably like myself, in the sense that they're middle-aged males who, you know, maybe are in decent shape, but they're just finding out that they can't get their bodies the way they were when they were in their 20s,
Hmm.
and they need sort of that extra boost. And I think they've heard about fasting, but they're either fearful of it, or they think that they're just not going to have energy, or, you know, there's some type of thing that's holding them back from learning about it and implementing it. So I would say that has been my typical client.
Mm-hmm. Any other like words of wisdom or any tips or anything else that you'd like to share? And also, can you tell us about like your website, where people can find you, your offerings, all that good stuff?
Yeah. Well, my website's just briangryn.com, and I recently launched a 21-day intermittent fasting challenge. So they can go to they can go to 21dayfastingchallenge.com and check that out. But as far as words of wisdom, actually, I would say that, as long as we're on the fasting theme, I think what's really been beneficial for myself and my clients is picking a time at the end of the day to just close the kitchen. I think a lot of things happen like after a certain time, whether it's late night snacking or boredom eating. And if you could, and it's really helped me where you just, and my clients, where you just pick a time, let's say 7:00, and then that's it. And you're sort of done for the day. And that way, you start getting into, a fasted state, and then you take advantage of your overnight fast, and you got a good, 10, 12 hours right there. So I would say that would be a good place to start, is just pick a time, 7:00, let's say 7:30, where you just close the kitchen. And if you do have hunger pains, hot tea or some mineral water is a good way to help as well after that time window.
Awesome. Thank you so much for, I feel like I've learned a lot. I want to do the fasting more instead of just sometimes I do it. And sometimes I do it without even meaning to, but now I want to intentionally do it more.
Yeah, once you get into it and you can sort of just work it around your schedule, I find that it's easier to do when you're busy too. If you have busy times, you don't even think about it sometimes. So that always helps.
Awesome. Thank you so much for speaking with me today, and have a great rest of your day.
You too. Enjoy the weekend.
Thank you. Bye-bye.